There's really no better feeling than sitting down to watch a film and getting absolutely swept away by it, held in the delicate hands of a vulnerable filmmaker who is guiding you through their magical, fully realized vision of the world. And Payal Kapadia's fiction debut, All We Imagine Is Light, is exemplary of exactly that. The film is brimming with these small, simple moments of beauty that draw you into the lives and textures of her contemporary working-class Mumbai. These images of, say, a woman retreating to the corner of a room and wrapping her brand new rice cooker in a tight embrace, as if it is a hug shared with her estranged husband. Of nighttime wanderings through bustling marketplaces, subway stations, and overcrowded streets. Of hushed conversations in bed with your friend, illuminated only by moonlight filtering through their open apartment window. Director Payal Kapadia and her cinematographer Ranabir Das have created a visual language of beauty that isn't purely spectacle, but is a way of finding radiance and power in the mundane. The film won the Grand Prix prize at Cannes early last year. It was, which came as a shock to me, the first film from an Indian director in over 3 decades to receive an invitation into the main competition of Cannes. The film is structured in a bifurcated manner, tracing the lives of 3 migrant women working in a Mumbai hospital, and subsequently following them over the course of one day in a small coastal village south of the city. You have the youngest of the 3, Anu, a hopeless romantic, looked down upon by her peers for her relationship with a Muslim boy. Next, Prabha, the middle-aged and lonely, pragmatic one, who quietly searches for a romantic connection after a gift from her estranged husband unexpectedly arrives at her doorstep. And the eldest, Pravarti, who is being evicted from her home by ruthless property developers, forced to relocate to a coastal town where the second half of the film takes place. You could look at each one of these little individual stories nestled within the film and pick out very obvious social critiques: Islamophobia, gender expectations, gentrification. But these are not points that are loudly or declaratively proclaimed, nor are they imbued with the very justified anger found in Kapadia's first feature, the documentary A Night of Knowing Nothing. That brilliant film, about student protests and the injustices of Modi's India, is steeped in an urgency, the spirit of youth tainted with anger. But there's none of that here. All We Imagine Is Light is a very quiet film that lulls you into its intoxicating stillness. It reminded me a lot of Chantal Akerman, namely her films News from Home and A Whole Night, and Appy Chapong's Tropical Malady, those rare kinds of films that masterfully and languidly evoke a tangible sense of place and time. Kapadia does still give ample attention to the social critiques here, but does not let it define her film or her characters, letting these social issues exist on the periphery as something that is increasingly defining the city around her trio of women, but ideals that these women are seeking to reject and finally break away from. One of the many triumphs of this film is how delicately woven the personal and the political are, how Kapadia is able to chronicle the textures of 3 generations of sexual, emotional, and political desires without it ever feeling performative or manufactured. This also extends to the way she depicts the city of Mumbai and these locales that have been depicted countless times over the years in films coming out of India. The first half of the film is this expansive city symphony that rejects the false, kind of glamorized depictions of Mumbai from other films, and reimagines it as a city defined by alienation and transience, a city of true monotony where one almost lives entirely at an emotional remove. As we see these city streets and marketplaces filled to the brim with people, yet there are little to no signs of affection or intimacy among them. The spaces these large swaths of individuals occupy are completely apathetic and transitory. People, like Prabha, hop on the train or bus in the evenings after work, and the lights of the big city fly right past them. Mumbai is filmed largely at night here, illuminated only by moonlight or the glittering streetlights. Kapadia's frames are dominated by different shades of blue that are beautiful to look at, but evoke this intense melancholy that looms over all of her characters' lives. Her camera moves around the city so freely, stumbling into various interactions with the populace of Mumbai. Take the lyrical opening montage of the film that wanders around different sections of the city to hear individual stories from real people, to gather their complicated feelings about their home city. A woman is heartbroken, but the city helps her forget those kinds of things. Or a man who has lived in Mumbai for 23 years, yet is still afraid to call it his home. The opening introduces us to the ways in which Kapadia is always searching for those faces or voices found in the hidden pockets of Mumbai that are never represented on screen. Across the film, she allows her camera to glide away or zoom out from the actions of our central characters to momentarily take a peek into the lives of others who are just as entangled in their mundane lives. That's where the film is at its most stunning, where her use of disembodied voiceover, of montage dominated by the constant patter of rainfall, or the musical score's twinkling instrumentals, really helped turn the mundane into the sublime. The second half of the film shifts rather dramatically into an entirely new register, when the three women leave Mumbai for the seaside town of Ratnagiri. In contrast to the kinetic, always awake streets of Mumbai, the shores of this coastal village are tranquil. The many shades of blue dominating the frames in the city now fade into warm splashes of yellow, and in comes more natural light, the glow of the sun becoming much more prevalent. The gritty, down-to-earth textures of Mumbai shift into something much more magical and dreamlike in Ratnagiri, because this town is where hope finally enters into their lives once more, reawakening in them once these women spend time amidst rural landscapes, in ancient caves, beaches, forests, that opens themselves up to something new, now away from the rhythms of the city that have tied them down in a state of emotional isolation. These characters' journey towards some form of escape comes to a head here, in this small village, where they finally embrace a life lived entirely on their own accord, instead of what they've been told is their prescribed fate all along. This whole section of the film really reckons with time, with the presence of past and present lives. Kapadia contrasts how time operates differently in Mumbai, how the pressures of the city compound on its denizens, causing the world around them to move incredibly fast, not given the time and space to reflect. You look out the window and everything just blurs by. Ratnagiri provides a much-needed respite from the grind of urban existence, allowing leisurely, reflective time, which is something not afforded to working-class women in Mumbai. It's only when Prabha and Anu leave behind the rigorous structure of their day-to-day urban lives that time begins to stretch, and their interiority is able to come into full focus. Time starts to slow down around them, and they now have the time and space to look inward at themselves, those around them, the environments they inhabit. There is one scene here, a transcendent sex scene, where this idea comes into full effect. We watch the union of two bodies that was once deemed taboo, where now these two young lovers finally find time alone, and are given the freedom to explore one another's bodies, to feel the hair on their lover's chest, the warmth of one another's breath, their hands gripped tightly and caressing each other's bodies. Kapadia's approach to lovemaking is so tactile, letting this scene of a long-awaited desire play out incredibly slowly, honing in on the details, ablaze with this pent-up desire finally allowed to be acted upon, now without the constraints or inquisitive eyes of the city gazing upon them. The heart and soul of Payal Kapadia's work is so soft, light, but always firm and unwavering. Her film is a luminous example of a cinema that can be deeply personal but political, committed to raising dissenting voices, to platforming differing ideas of female intimacy and kinship, of religious and class divides. But she's also creating a whole new language of filmmaking in and of itself, forging a stunning union between the personal and the political so that they may coexist without one being prioritized over the other. As the characters she crafts are not simply defined by the cultural mores imposed upon them, they are more than capable of constructing new lives, of forming strong connections between those who are, like them, tied down to their restrictive birthplace. Kapadia's unique aesthetic and her complete embrace of blurring the line between fiction and non-fiction reimagines the very foundation of beauty. Every frame of this film is beautiful, not only for its colors, its use of light and darkness, but because these are images ripe with discovery, with new meaning. For me, the one sequence that embodies the magic, the beauty of all we imagine as light, is the City of Illusions montage. It's a brief, maybe 2-minute moment in the film that encapsulates just about everything Kapadia is trying to come to terms with. These sights of joy, celebration, devoid of the cacophony of noise, replaced with voiceover ruminating on the spirit of Mumbai, and now you have to buy into its illusions or the city will drive you mad. Kapadia has made a deeply quiet, reflective film in a present landscape of Indian cinema, at least of the mainstream kind, that is characterized by its loud, maximalist nature, a cinema completely driven by noise and visual excess. But her film stands as a beacon for life in all shapes and forms, a breaking away from tradition and embracing the life you want to live, where, at least for a moment, you can exist beyond the responsibilities dictated by culture and tradition, for better and for worse.